What's up everyone and welcome back to the MMA Talk. Today, let's get started with Conor McGregor has officially been granted permission by an Irish court to serve legal papers to Sky News, initiating a defamation lawsuit against the media outlet. The development follows an incident in which a Sky News reporter allegedly called McGregor a rapist during a media scrum, an accusation he and his legal team firmly deny and categorize as defamatory. The alleged remark occurred outside a courthouse in November 2024, immediately after McGregor had been found liable in a civil sexual assault case. The civil case was brought forward by Nikita Hand, who accused McGregor of sexually assaulting her in a Dublin hotel in 2018. While no criminal charges were ever filed in connection with the allegation, a civil jury ultimately ruled in Hand's favor. McGregor was ordered to pay £26,000 in damages, in addition to covering her legal fees. Following that verdict, McGregor filed an appeal seeking to overturn the ruling, but the courts rejected his appeal and upheld the initial decision. According to McGregor's legal representatives, the defamation incident occurred shortly after the verdict was delivered. As McGregor was leaving the courthouse, a Sky News reporter allegedly confronted him and said, "Excuse me, Mr. McGregor, you are a rapist." McGregor's team argues that this remark not only misrepresented the outcome of the civil case, where liability does not equate to criminal guilt, but also directly harmed his reputation on a global scale. Because Ireland's defamation laws impose a strict one-year deadline to file such claims, time was running out for McGregor to take legal action. On Thursday, a judge approved his request to proceed and allowed him to serve the necessary documents to Sky News. The paperwork is expected to be completed by Friday, keeping the lawsuit within the required legal timeline. This defamation claim adds yet another chapter to McGregor's ongoing legal challenges, which have continued to attract global media attention. As the case moves forward, McGregor is seeking to hold Sky News accountable for what he alleges was a false and damaging statement made in a highly public setting. The lawsuit now stands as part of McGregor's broader effort to legally counter statements he believes have unfairly tarnished his public image. Before we jump into the next story, we have a small favor to ask. If you're enjoying the content, please give this video a like, subscribe to the channel, and tap the bell icon. It really helps us out, and ensures you'll never miss an update. Move on to another news. A highly anticipated press conference was held to officially kick off the promotion for the upcoming Jake Paul vs. Anthony Joshua boxing match. This event marked the first time the two fighters stood face to face, generating intense interest from the media, fans, and analysts across the combat sports world. The energy in the room was electric as both men stepped onto the stage, signaling the start of what promises to be one of the most talked about crossover boxing events in recent years. When Paul and Joshua approached the center of the stage for their initial face-off, the physical disparity between them immediately became the main point of focus. Anthony Joshua, a former unified heavyweight champion known for his elite athleticism, towering height, and powerful physique, clearly presented a significant size advantage. Standing across from him, Jake Paul, who has primarily competed at cruiserweight, appeared noticeably smaller in both height and overall frame. The stark contrast highlighted the monumental challenge Paul is choosing to take on as he faces a seasoned heavyweight with world championship pedigree. Despite the obvious difference in physical dimensions, Jake Paul carried himself with trademark confidence. He maintained strong eye contact, projecting calmness and determination. Paul has built his career on defying expectations and stepping into fights many critics claim he cannot win. His posture during the face-off reflected his belief that this fight is another opportunity to shock the world and further establish his legitimacy as a boxer. Anthony Joshua, meanwhile, displayed the poise of a veteran competitor. His demeanor was controlled and composed, reflecting a man who has been on the biggest stages of the sport. Joshua did not engage in excessive theatrics or trash talk. Instead, he delivered the silent confidence of someone who has seen every type of challenge throughout his career. His calm, focused expression suggested that he views the fight as business, another test he is fully prepared to handle. The press conference concluded with both fighters briefly addressing the crowd and reaffirming their commitment to delivering an unforgettable showdown. With the fight officially scheduled for December 19th, the first face-off successfully set the stage for an intense build-up in the weeks ahead. Fans now eagerly await what could be one of the most intriguing matchups in modern boxing. Move on to another news. Tsarukyan addressed the controversy surrounding his heated face-off with Dan Hooker after their unexpected clash at the UFC weigh-ins. The incident unfolded when Tsarukyan suddenly leaned forward and delivered a headbutt toward Hooker during their stare-down. Security staff immediately rushed in to separate the fighters, but Hooker appeared completely unfazed. He smiled, laughed, and acted as if the confrontation had no effect on him, which only fueled online discussion about the moment. The reaction from fans was swift. Many criticized Tsarukyan for taking things too far, noting that the fight could have been jeopardized if Hooker had suffered even a minor cut. UFC weigh-ins are meant to build tension, but deliberate physical contact outside of an agreed stare-down is often frowned upon. Critics argued that Tsarukyan's move was reckless, unprofessional, and potentially damaging to the event. Speaking to ESPN MMA shortly after, Tsarukyan attempted to explain his actions. According to him, Hooker initiated the tension by trying to intimidate him during the face-off. Tsarukyan claimed that Hooker leaned in or made a gesture designed to scare him, prompting what he described as an automatic reaction. He insisted that no one can intimidate him and said that the headbutt was a result of pure instinct rather than premeditation. Tsarukyan elaborated by saying that Hooker's attempt at intimidation triggered a surge of aggression. He felt disrespected and wanted to send a message. The lightweight contender described himself as someone who refuses to allow opponents to scare him or test him physically outside the cage. His explanation, however, left many fans puzzled, calling it a strange justification for an unnecessary escalation. He went on to outline his mindset heading into the fight. Tsarukyan said he now intends to push Hooker to his physical limit, emphasizing that he wants to exhaust him rather than finish him quickly. He expressed a desire to inflict significant damage, stating that his goal is to cut his whole face and make the fight grueling for Hooker. Tsarukyan's comments highlighted the intensity of the rivalry and set the tone for a highly charged matchup. The confrontation and subsequent explanation have only added more intrigue to their upcoming fight, leaving fans eager to see how the tension will translate inside the octagon. Move on to another news. Khamzat Chimaev delivered one of the most surprising and talked about responses of UFC Fight Week when he was asked about a potential backstage altercation involving Ilia Topuria and Tsarukyan. The situation puts Chimaev in an unusual position. While he maintains a friendly relationship with Ilia Topuria, Tsarukyan is far closer to him, someone he considers like family. Chimaev is also cornering Tsarukyan for his upcoming main event fight against Dan Hooker, adding another layer of complexity. When asked what he would do if Ilia and Arman got into a confrontation backstage, Chimaev made it clear that he would never lay a hand on Topuria. He respects him and sees no reason to engage physically. However, he also stated that if the two fighters began throwing punches, he would allow them to handle the situation one-on-one. His loyalty to Tsarukyan remains unwavering, but his respect for Topuria prevents him from taking sides unless absolutely necessary. Chimaev's comments became even more intense when he added that he would only involve himself if others tried to jump in. He made it clear that anyone attempting to interfere, whether teammates, friends, or members of Topuria's entourage, would be the ones he would take out. This sparked widespread online discussion, especially when Chimaev implied that he wouldn't fight Ilia himself, but he would have no problem clashing with Alexander Topuria, Ilia's brother, if he tried to get involved. The online reaction was amplified by the fact that Tsarukyan previously stated he has no personal issue with Ilia Topuria. According to Tsarukyan, if they crossed paths, he would greet Ilia respectfully. No aggression, no tension, simply a handshake. Still, their upcoming fight has major implications. Tsarukyan and Hooker are battling for the #1 contender spot in Topuria's featherweight division. Complicating matters further, Ilia Topuria is currently engaged in heated discussions regarding a potential lightweight title fight with Islam Makhachev, leaving unclear whether he will remain in the featherweight division long-term. Chimaev ultimately downplayed the likelihood of any conflict, emphasizing that this is a sport built on competitive tension. He believes heated moments help promote fights but hopes everything stays professional. His stance highlights both his loyalty and his understanding of the sport's promotional dynamics. Move on to another news. Dricus du Plessis recently shared his thoughts on Jack Della Maddalena's loss to Islam Makhachev, offering a technical and insightful breakdown of the fight. Speaking on a new episode of Fight Forecast, the reigning UFC UFC middleweight champion said the matchup reminded him of his own bout with Khamzat Chimaev. According to Du Plessis, both fights showcased a similar theme, elite wrestlers imposing a style that many strikers struggle to solve. Reflecting on the bout, Du Plessis explained that he expected a difficult night for Della Maddalena. He and his team had predicted that Makhachev's wrestling-heavy approach would be a major factor, and the fight played out exactly as anticipated. Du Plessis emphasized that Makhachev seemed to have an answer for every technique JDM attempted. Whether Maddalena threw combinations at range or tried to create defensive scrambles, Islam consistently shut him down. Du Plessis compared this dynamic to his own experience facing Chimaev, noting that certain fighters possess styles that demand adaptation rather than direct confrontation. He pointed out that throughout UFC history, the sport has gone through eras where particular disciplines dominate. At present, he believes Russian-style grapplers, especially those with elite wrestling and top control, have a clear technical edge. Their ability to dictate where the fight takes place, slow the pace, and control opponents on the ground forces strikers into high-pressure situations. While acknowledging Makhachev's dominant performance, Du Plessis also highlighted moments where Della Maddalena showed promise. He praised JDM's work in the clinch, noting that Maddalena did his best striking when he initiated close-range exchanges. According to Du Plessis, JDM's hesitation at distance worked against him. Being overly cautious of the takedown allowed Islam to dictate timing, and ironically, JDM ended up being taken down anyway. Du Plessis suggested that a more aggressive clinch-forward game plan may have altered the rhythm of the fight. He also pointed to Della Maddalena's heavy lead leg as a vulnerability. Makhachev's team recognized the weakness early, targeting it systematically to reduce JDM's mobility and power. Du Plessis credited Islam's coaching staff for exploiting that detail effectively. In the end, Du Plessis concluded that Makhachev delivered a flawless, dominant performance, one he and his team fully expected based on stylistic matchups. Move on to another news. Belal Muhammad continues to stand firmly behind his belief that he is the best welterweight in the world. Speaking to ESPN MMA ahead of UFC Qatar, Muhammad expressed a renewed sense of motivation and hunger as he prepares to face the undefeated Ian Machado Garry. For Belal, this matchup is not just another fight, it is an opportunity to remind the entire division who he is and reclaim his momentum toward a championship run. Muhammad explained that the build-up to this event reignited the same drive he felt before his previous title opportunity. He emphasized that he still sees himself as the contender chasing gold, not the fighter who slipped from the spotlight. "I'm still hungry," he said. "I'm still the guy chasing the belt. Last week everyone was talking about welterweights. This week they're only talking about me. Next week they'll only be talking about me. This month the conversation is going to stay centered on me." His confidence reflects a fighter who feels overlooked but never deterred. When asked who he is trying to remind the world of, Muhammad answered without hesitation, "I'm the best welterweight in the world." He believes this identity will become undeniable once the cage door closes. Muhammad predicted a dominant performance against Garry, convinced that people will begin speaking about him with the respect he feels he has earned throughout his long winning streak. The tension between Muhammad and Ian Garry has only intensified in the lead-up to the event. Garry dismissed Muhammad's confidence as fake, claiming Belal is not the elite fighter he portrays himself to be. Muhammad brushed off the comments, saying none of the talk will matter once they stand across from each other on fight night. "Tomorrow night the cage door locks. No more interviews, no more talking. When I put my hands on him, he'll understand." Muhammad also admitted that during their stare-down, he felt an overwhelming desire to break Garry's bravado. "I want to break this kid's jaw," he said. "All he does is talk. After the fight, he won't have much to say." He predicted that Garry would be left making excuses online afterward, claiming he is still young and still the future. For Belal Muhammad, UFC Qatar represents more than a fight. It is his moment to reclaim respect and re-establish himself as the division's true number one. Move on to another news. Ian Garry has once again ignited headlines by boldly declaring himself the greatest welterweight on the planet. Speaking with full confidence ahead of his upcoming fight, Garry promised not only to defeat Belal Muhammad but to knock him out in emphatic fashion. According to Garry, this victory will cement his status as the rightful next title challenger, and if the UFC decides to book an interim championship bout with Shavkat Rakhmonov instead, Garry insists he is more than ready for that scenario as well. Beyond the fight conversation, an old controversy involving Rampage Jackson resurfaced this week, adding extra drama to Garry's media run. Their tension originally stemmed from what Garry calls a podcast misunderstanding. Garry had been scheduled to appear on Jackson's show during UFC 298 Fight Week. However, days before the appearance, Rampage went on Ariel Helwani's program and claimed Garry refused to be on the podcast because he was afraid of being made fun of. Rampage even dragged Garry's family into the conversation, which escalated the situation. Garry immediately fired back, calling Rampage fat and stupid for making accusations when he was already confirmed to appear on the show. Frustrated by the public misrepresentation, Garry withdrew entirely from the episode. Later, Rampage attempted to clear the air on a podcast with Anthony Pettis, admitting he had misunderstood the situation. He explained that another fighter had expressed fear of being ridiculed, but he mistakenly believed it was Garry. Still, the damage was already done. Rampage publicly stated that Garry is the only fighter he genuinely dislikes, even resorting to insults and saying he can't stand him. Returning to Fight Matters, Garry laid out his exact roadmap for the division. The only fight he would consider after beating Muhammad, outside of a direct title shot, would be a rematch with Rakhmonov purely for personal redemption, but his main focus remains on Islam Makhachev, whom he expects to face after knocking out the division's top contender. In Garry's view, once he stops Belal Muhammad, he becomes the best welterweight alive, and the champion must meet him. With all top welterweights competing within the same week, Garry says this is his chance to prove to the world that Ian Machado Garry is on a different level than anyone at 170 pounds.